Hello and welcome back to the We Are Not Lonely podcast. It's episode 62. Very interesting. Okay, so I'm going to continue on the whole topic of money, but before that I'm going to go on a small rant. Not really a rant, I'm going to go on a tangent. It's kind of related, okay? But you decide, it's up to you. So this last weekend I took my first real vacation. Like last time I did travel to Dehradun for a wedding. I was there for like 3 days, but the thing was I had to go back and I had to make up for the days that I missed out when I got back. This was sometime in Feb. So the last real vacation that I took was sometime in Feb for a wedding, but I had to get back to work right away. And this time I decided to take a vacation. I traveled to a really close friend's house. I spent the weekend. I came back on Monday, right? It was an amazing time, but the reason I'm mentioning all of this is because I got to do a lot of reading while I was there, because I was on vacation. I didn't really have anything else to do, right? So I kept with my standard routine. I did other things that I was supposed to do. So at the end of everything, what I did, I ended up completing 2 books. Now, one of them was this book called Devdutt Pattanaik's My Gita, and the other was The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco. The first book, the reason I read it is actually because I'm planning content on it. I purchased it back in 2019 and I never got around to reading it because of a particular article and then a video that I ended up watching. There was this 1-hour expose on Devdutt Pattanaik and his complete lack of knowledge. And it had been like 6 years since then, and the book was just sitting there, and I thought, hey, you know what? I know the Gita, like I've studied it, and I know a little bit of Sanskrit now. So why don't I read Devdutt Pattanaik's Gita and see what kind of mistakes I find and all of that. And my god, dude, this guy doesn't know basic Sanskrit, and not even Sanskrit. This is common to Hindi as well, because they use the same lipi, right? They use the same script, Devanagari. So for example, I'm going to give you one small example of the issues that I found in Devdutt Pattanaik's Gita. He translates Bhagavan as the possessor of all slices. And this mystified me initially. I was like, how? No, this is not what Bhagavan means. I had to go back and look into that, because the way I've studied, the way I've understood Bhagavan was always as the possessor of all 6 bhagas. For example, Balavan is one who has strength. Bhagyavan is one who has bhagya, and therefore Bhagavan is one who has bhaga. And the idea is that Bhagavan is the one who has all 6 bhagas in infinite measure. Okay? This is a technical breakdown of a simple word called Bhagavan. Now this man, Devdutt Pattanaik, has actually read Bhagavan as Bhagavan. Now, it's a very simple thing. It's basic Sanskrit. It's the difference between A and AA, Bhaga and Bhaga. So, he has read Bhagavan as Bhagavan. And he's continued this mistake throughout the book, which is pathetic to think about. Right? This is a man who is supposed to be an expert on mythology. He considers himself an author. He has written multiple books. This kind of mistake is not acceptable. It should have been caught at least by the editor. But that didn't happen because nobody gives a damn. Now that you do that mistranslation, now here's the thing. Bhagavan and Bhagavan kind of look the same when you see them in English. Bhagavan. If you really want to get pedantic about it, you can add an extra A for Bhagavan, right? But generally speaking, Bhaga can be seen the same, especially when you're looking at it in the Roman letters, like in romanization of the Hindi. If you read Bhagavan or Bhagavan in English, this mistake can be understood, right? But this is not a mistake that a serious scholar should be making, right? So Bhaga, yes, it definitely does mean part, slice, completely. I agree. But we don't say Bhagavan, we say Bhagavan. I don't know how a supposedly serious scholar is making such basic mistakes. So that was just the beginning. Like, there were multiple mistakes. There were serious errors in the storytelling. There's this complete focus on sex and violence. This man translates Astika as a person who believes in the reality of sex and violence. That's not what Astika means. Astika means one who accepts the Vedas, technical definition. But I'm not going to get too into it because I'm saving this for another post. This is going to be another video by itself. Maybe it's going to be an entire podcast episode by itself. But this is just a teaser of the kind of nonsense that is accepted in India. It's pathetic. Anyway, the second book that I read was this book called The Millionaire Fast Lane by MJ DeMarco, I believe. So, this was an interesting read, okay? And if I had to summarize the entire book, it says that the fast lane to wealth is by creating and owning your own business. That's the only way you can get rich. Now, the other idea is the slow lane, which he talks about a lot. The slow lane is about investing, earn more than you spend, invest, and watch exponential growth and compound interest take you to wealth. Okay, so yeah, the book was quite interesting because I had always bought into the idea of SIPs, creating wealth over time. That idea, like, it was kind of beaten into me by all of the seminars that I spent in, like, that I attended while I was in my MBA. Like, it makes sense. It makes complete sense. Yeah, it does make sense that, yeah, you know, that compound interest will take time and you'll eventually end up a millionaire. But it's going to take a huge amount of time. That's the problem. Right. So the book was good. I enjoyed the book. It was really cool. The basic idea is that you solve a problem, sell the solution as a business, and you end up making a lot of money. And then instead of getting tens of millions in 30-40 years, you'll end up getting tens of millions in 10 years, which is preferable because, you know, you'll be alive to enjoy all your money. And it made a lot of sense. It's good. It was way better than reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, for example. You know, Rich Dad Poor Dad, he references it in this book. I'm not going to say Rich Dad Poor Dad is nonsense, but if you think about it, Robert Kiyosaki got rich off books. I don't know how much his real estate really helped him. Like, we have no real clue, but he's got a lot of books and he definitely earns a lot of royalties off of those books. So his advice is a little suspect, I guess, right? So yeah, this book really is going to take some time to sink in. I'm going to read it again. That's the idea. But let's just say that I enjoyed the book. I thoroughly enjoyed the book because I blitzed through the book during the weekend. It was good. It's a lot of theory. I wish I had read it like earlier in my life. It's still helpful because I'm trying to create my own business. I'm trying to create my own brand, so to speak. It would have been a lot more useful back in the day. Continuing on this whole money path, right? Like, yesterday I was rewatching this video by Shri Guru Rohit Arya. He's, I think, a spiritual figure. He talks about a lot of things. And one of the most interesting videos, I've watched it I think twice or thrice at this moment. It's called the Manipa, Kubera and Sri Aurobindo, right? And this is one of the things that really shifted the idea of money in my head, right? Until that point, I had believed in that old story, the love of money is the root of all evil. And as a spiritual person, being enmeshed in material things and talking about money, all of that was a no-no. I expected great knowledge to come for free, and that was how I measured whether a teacher was authentic or not, whether they were charging money. And it took a really long time for me to unlearn all of this knowledge. But this was the video that broke it open for me. I'm going to leave it in the description. I highly recommend you watch it. I'm going to talk about like the things that he talks about in that particular video, but I highly recommend you watch it. It's about 40 minutes. I was watching it while I was drawing. I was sketching yesterday, and it was a really good reminder. Now, the entire idea is that money is a form of Shakti. It's a form of energy that ebbs and flows. It's supposed to have this golden hue, and the entry point for this energy to enter our life is through the lower chakras, through the Muladhara and the Swadhisthana. And he also mentions that blockages in the heart chakra, in the Anahata, can actually prevent the flow. And then he goes on to talk about Lakshmi. Now, the idea that Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth is kind of a misnomer. Shri Lakshmi, he talks about the differences, that there's a difference between Narayana Lakshmi and Shri Lakshmi. He doesn't go into that particular difference, but he mentions that there is a specific difference between the two. And I think the most important thing is that he mentioned that Lakshmi is not the goddess of wealth. She's the goddess of abundance. Wealth is just one of those aspects that she brings, right? And if the seeker's true desire is pure material wealth, then you should go after Kubera, because he is the guardian and the deva of money. Now, there's this whole story about Kubera giving a huge loan to Srinivasa, to Balaji, that is the deity that is sitting in the Tirumala hills. Tirumala Timmappa, Balaji, Venkateshwara, so on and so forth. So the idea is that Kubera is so rich that he's given this massive loan to Srinivasa, and all of the money. Now, Tirupati is one of the richest temples in the world. In terms of income alone, it's one of the richest. And the amount is massive. It is mind-boggling. Sri Venkateshwara Swami Temple in Tirupati, managed by the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, has an estimated net worth of over 3 lakh crores. That's approximately 36 billion US dollars. This makes it one of the richest religious institutions in the world, like I said, surpassing the market capitalization of several major global corporations. It has bank deposits of over 16,000 crores in various banks and trust funds. It has 10 plus tons of gold deposits in banks and about 2.5 tons of gold jewelry. It's got 960 land parcels and properties spread across India, and it also generates substantial ongoing revenue. It's got an annual budget frequently exceeding 5,000 crores. The income comes from daily collections from the hundis made by 50,000 plus devotees visiting daily, and income from interest, billions of rupees in interest generated annually from their massive bank fixed deposits, as well as their offerings. They get a lot of donations of gold, silver, precious stones and all of that. Now, the temple also spends a lot of money on social and charitable programs. It also feeds hundreds of thousands of pilgrims on a daily basis, and operating costs for the temple for maintaining the structure account for a major portion of its annual budget. That's what they say, right? And the idea, despite this massive wealth, despite the massive amount of income, is that we're barely able to pay off the interest that Srinivasa owes to Kubera. That's the idea. That's how rich Kubera is. He's given the god who has married the goddess of abundance alone. That's Kubera for you. Okay? Now, Shri Guru Rohit Arya goes into the technicalities of Kubera. He talks about how Kubera's actual name is Vaishravana. There's a specific mantra actually, Kuberaya Vaishravanaya. It is mentioned in that specific mantra. He is a Dikpala, he is the guardian of wealth, of money. Okay? And his symbols are specifically the anar and the shankha. Now the anar is the pomegranate, and if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense that the pomegranate represents wealth, because one pomegranate has like hundreds of seeds. It can just propagate endlessly, like from one tree you get many, and that's the whole idea of wealth, right? That's the whole Pareto principle in action. To those that have everything, more will be given, and from those that have nothing, everything will be taken away. Once you have a certain amount of money, it just becomes easier and easier for more wealth to flow into your hands. Okay, now he also addresses like a really important point. He talks about the reason that the whole idea of why spiritual people have stopped talking about and stopped touching money. He acknowledges, for example, that there is a very asuric influence on money. At the moment, definitely, money has a very heavy asuric force, like influence. And that's one of the main reasons that many spiritual traditions and spiritual leaders have avoided and criticized it. Now, the problem is, spiritual people who have, technically speaking, the highest vibration, have stopped talking about two of the most important topics. They've stopped talking about money and they've stopped talking about sex. Allowing other people to come into this conversation, allowing the asuric forces to dominate this conversation. And it's important for people who have such a high vibration, spiritual people. He says that it is important for them to earn wealth. There's this story of Sri Aurobindo that he talks about. Now, supposedly, Sri Aurobindo was the first yogi to actually command the rest of the yogis to reclaim this money power from the dark forces and use it for divine purposes, instead of just renouncing it like they have been doing all this while. Right? So, the idea is that he actually went into a battle against the asuric forces, and he succeeded to a large point, because after Sri Aurobindo, after this particular story, apparently, I mean, this is actually the truth. Like, if a decent spiritual organization pops up, if it reaches a certain level of fame, then it doesn't lack for money at all. There's always enough. Genuine, like even not necessarily genuine spiritual organizations, even fake spiritual organizations have access to huge amounts of wealth, but that's just asuric forces again. But the situation isn't so that genuine spiritual forces, genuine spiritual organizations lack money now, and that's thanks to the battle that Sri Aurobindo had. And apparently this is again part of what Shri Guru Rohit Arya speaks about. He talks about how Aurobindo was not safe. His leg was broken as a result of the battle that he went into. The asuric forces engaged him in a psychic battle as well, and they ended up breaking his leg. After that, like, he gave a command. Sri Aurobindo gave an adesh that yogis, spiritual people, it is their duty, it is their spiritual duty to become as prosperous as possible. And even Shri Guru Rohit Arya makes this exact same argument. He argues that people of a higher consciousness must reclaim wealth from the asuric forces and dismiss the notion that poverty is a sign of spirituality, because that is the general idea. That's what I've had in my mind all this while. That's why I had this huge conflict. That's why I've had this really bad relationship with money all these years, because I had this erroneous assumption that to be spiritual you should not go after the material. And that's absolutely wrong. That's one of the worst things that you can tell people, especially young spiritual seekers. earning money is also a sadhana. It's a very important sadhana, especially in this Kali Yuga. Because dharma, like I've mentioned in my previous podcast, is expensive. You need money to take care of cows, to build temples, to teach people. You need money for all of this. And if you have a certain amount of wealth, especially in this Kali Yuga, your words become Vedavakyam. They become the absolute truth. People just accept whatever you say blindly because you're a person who has wealth and you're talking about certain things. There's this really interesting story that he mentions partway through the entire story of Swami Rama. Now, Swami Rama was a very interesting spiritual figure. He was a Nath yogi, I believe, and he was actually the guru of the Nepali royal family. Now, the Nepali royal family Nepal itself was one of the only Hindu Rashtras in the entire world. The king and queen were Hindus, the state was Hindu. Now, the issue was that there was this idea that poverty equals spiritual growth and spiritual level, right? And the queen at that time lectured Swami Rama. She didn't even ask, right? She didn't have the humility to go and ask Swami Rama, who dresses quite well, who had incredible connections, who could raise money like that, right? And I believe Shri Guru Rohit Arya mentions that he always dresses in silk. He always dressed in silk. And there's a reason for that. Silk is supposed to be a really good pranic, it's supposed to help with prana or something. I don't understand that. Silk is a very pure material ritually. That much I know. Because anyway, getting back. So Swami Rama used to wear silk, and she looked at him and she's like, she started lecturing him, telling him what spirituality really is. And apparently Swami Rama just looked at her. He didn't speak a single word. He had a terrible expression on his face. And during the course of that entire conversation, the queen actually brought a certain spiritual person, quote unquote. You can't see me, so I'm mentioning it out loud. She brought a spiritual person onto the area where they were speaking, and she pointed out, like, this is a real spiritual person, because look at him, he doesn't have all of these material trappings. And this entire argument was predicated, it arose from the fact that she believed, like most people do, that for a person to be spiritual, you must be in abject poverty. Now, Swami Rama just listened. He had a horrible expression on his face, and at the end of it, he is supposed to have said, my sampradaya has withdrawn its protection from the Nepali royal family. My sampradaya the parampara has withdrawn its protection from the Nepali royal family. And you know what happened to the Nepali royal family, horrible things. So what Shri Guru Rohit Arya mentioned was that the prince of the royal family got into drugs, specifically cocaine, and he ended up shooting down his own family after a dispute, including his father, King Birendra, and Queen Aishwarya. He also shot himself, and he died after he was declared king. After that, the prince's uncle took over the throne, but there was massive distrust. And after that, there were years of political turmoil, and there were mass protests against his control, and the Nepalese parliament decided to end the monarchy. And now the palace is a public museum. So that was the story of Swami Rama and Nepali royal family, and this false idea that spirituality means poverty, when nothing could be further from the truth. When it could be... That's the thing, man. This idea has become entrenched. And I honestly believe that it's because of Christian missionaries and all of that. I mean, we can't really blame them. I don't know where this idea came from. Damn it. I don't know where this idea that spirituality equals poverty came from. It's unsure, but in our culture, generally what happened was that the king society itself would take care of the more spiritual people. They would support them. That's why I mentioned earlier that the grahastha is the bedrock, the foundation of dharma, because he supports the brahmachari, the vanaprastha, and the sannyasi, right? And certain swamis, certain sannyasis, certain rishis, all of these people were taken care of by the state. And this was the condition of their living for a really long time. And it's only recently, only in the Kali Yuga, that all of these things have gone haywire. So, yeah, I mean, definitely, man, we need a complete rehaul of this understanding of money. And that's what I've been working on, that's what I've been doing. Let's see where it goes. The goal is now to earn a lot of money. I want to be a multi-millionaire. You heard it here. I'm saying this multiple times. I am going to be a multi-millionaire. I'm going to make a lot of money from YouTube, selling courses, teaching people. I do not want to be a poor yogi. That's not what I'm here for. At one point, I believed that was what spirituality was, and I was heading in that direction, but no longer. My eyes have been opened thanks to multiple people, including Shri Guru Rohit Arya. So, yeah, this is my transformation. I just want other spiritual people to be aware of this truth as well. It is a duty, it is the duty of every spiritual person to reclaim wealth from the hands of the asuric forces that have complete control over it, and start using that money for dharmic purposes. Just putting it out there. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it for today. I don't really have much else to say, so we're gonna end it here. I've got to go write an article. I've got to focus on how to get this podcast back up, as in I need to live an interesting life to talk about things, right? So I'm focusing on that. Anyway, that's about it. I will see you again next week. Thank you. Ta-ta.